can't get no momentum. I'm down. Double gaucho.
Meow, 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 everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey everybody, Cantonese Cat here. Yeah, today hurts in terms of both Shopify and Affirm. Today was a pretty risk-off day in general. So yeah, it's extremely painful. I was holding shares, I'm not using any leverage or anything like that. And I've always really been saying I like to catch falling knives. Even though I don't think Shopify is a falling knife at all. I don't think Affirm is a falling knife at all. I actually think that long term frame they actually still look pretty good. But short term, with earnings with these volatile stocks, plus or minus 10, 20%, not really anything out of the ordinary. If you look at these videos, if you're trying to look for trade setups, if you see some trade setups that you like, you want to do it, great. I just want to say a lot of times I'm not really trading these things. I'm just looking at it because I'm fascinated about the market, because I want to show you what I see, and because I want to get better at it. One day I do perhaps want to be a trader, and I want to learn as much as I can right now. But there's a very, very brutal setup that have happened today, or really throughout the last couple months. First of all, you have a kind of like a little bit of a bearish diagonal trend line over here, right? Theoretically, we broke about that trend line. Theoretically, we have broken over this trend line on a little bit of increasing volume over here. The problem is it just go right into earnings, right? Because so it could either potentially shoot up 10, 20%, shoot down 10, 20%. End up going down. All it takes is just some volume come in, and next thing you know, like these kind of trend lines apparently mean nothing, right? So that was something that's particularly painful for a lot of traders to have gone through. But playing earnings is always risky. If you look at a weekly chart, yeah, it's a pretty nasty weekly candle right there. But out of the context, it's not really any particularly more nasty than this candle over here, or any crazier than this big giant green candle over here on the weekly, or this giant green candle here on the weekly, or this giant green candle here on the weekly. My point is that these things are nothing for Shopify. Um, it is a volatile stock. Before running into earnings, it was having a few favorable things. First of all, it was at the bottom of this volume shelf, is kind of bounced up to the top part of it, or over here. So theoretically, there may be some buffer kind of at the bottom of this volume shelf over here. If that volume shelf is broken, then the next stop is kind of going to be this volume shelf around here, and sure enough, it finds support. But one support up here, unfortunately, this volume shelf up here on top has been broken, right? The other thing is, if you look at the weekly moving average, the 20, 50, and 100, initially you see like maybe it's kind of finding support around the 50, and it looked like it was potentially going to challenge the 20, depending on how earnings go, but now it got rejected from the 20, broke down to 50, and right now it's just kind of hanging in space at the volume shelf over here. So there are a couple of unfortunate breakdowns. If you also look at the monthly chart, I'm going to go ahead and close this out here. You look at the monthly chart, there's going to be a lot of other things to look at too. For example, you look at Ichimoku Cloud. Initially, it was right at the blue line right there in the Tenkan, and it broke underneath of that. And it happens, and next thing you know, it got into this volume shelf peak over here and found support over here. If you also look at another indicator similar to Ichimoku Cloud, which is the Tsubishi Cloud, which takes into account of the super trend, you can also see that that Tenkan and Kijun also had a bullish cross, just like it did with the Ichimoku Cloud, had a bullish cross over here, and the Tsubishi Cloud also had a bullish cross. So I mean, this is a bull trend, higher high, higher low. But anyway, it did break down the support down here, around 65 or so, right? And right now the key support is really here at the volume shelf. I'm going to show you a couple other things too, in terms of what it has failed, but I also want to show you why we're finding support so far. And in order to show you that, and I rarely really look at the daily chart, but I do want to look at the daily chart for this particular stock to try and make sense of the price action. So first of all, there are a few things that are positive about. I know after 20% down, there is something positive about this stock. First of all, it has a pretty decent wick that tells me that there's demand on the zone. What happens over here seems to be I'm trying to close this gap, and it did end up closing this gap over here. Is this going to close this big giant gap over here all the way down to the 40s? I don't think so, but is there a possibility that it could be? There's always a possibility, right? But so far, any particular big giant gap close like it did over here generally could serve as support. And the other thing to look at, if you just pull up the Bollinger Band, is like way outside of the lower Bollinger Band. All right, over here, Bollinger Band squeezing, it was kind of riding on top of the Bollinger Band. It was already expanding, so technically you would imagine it would just keep going up, right? But no, I mean it's just broken out all the way underneath the lower Bollinger Band. Last time I saw that happen was really right here, right before earnings. Everybody was getting really, really bullish. It was right there, next thing you know, it had a pretty huge reversal. But again, that was like, based on catalyst because that was earnings. And you really rarely see these kinds of things just kind of way outside of daily Bollinger Band like you see over here. That was a pretty decent top. You see it kind of, getting a few candles closing underneath the daily Bollinger Band. That was a, pretty nice bottom. So sometimes you do get these candles just kind of closing way outside the upper Bollinger Band. But these things, like just having a candle like that in space, kind of like what you're seeing right here, they don't happen very often. And when they do, generally it's just way overextended. You can end up spending a few days consolidating and keep going down, right? There's always that possibility. But generally these candles, they're pretty oversold, if you will. And talking about oversold, if you just put up the RSI, you can see, it really has just gotten the RSI all the way from like, 60s all the way just back down to like the 30s, which is one day apart. And currently it's in the oversold zone. Where you're seeing also is that, interestingly, I guess right around here, you have like some slight bearish divergences, a little tiny bit of bearish divergences that doesn't necessarily have to play out. But instead of having like the bearish divergence there, around you have a really strong bullish divergence here on the daily, right? Price going down, RSI is still going up. So you have a relatively strong bullish divergence over here as you're really building up. So I think bears are going to have a hard time to really try and push this down further at where it is right now. Now, I'm going to pull up the weekly here. If I look at the weekly, it's going to kind of tell you a little bit of a different picture. You just look at the formation. I'm going to turn off all the other stuff over here. We just look at formation. Again, I was telling you about the video from yesterday. It's just basically been making higher lows after higher highs. After right now, it just made a higher high. Right now, it's just trying to make a higher low on the bigger, in the grander scheme. And the higher low is just trying to find support. Is it going to be supported over up here? Initially that was a possibility, or is it going to be supported by this, horizontal history zone right here, which also has a pretty decent volume shelf over here, which so far looks like it's finding support? Is it going to end up all the way down to like 50, something like that? There's always that possibility, right? If it goes down, it does tend to cause a little bit more technical damage, although just looking at the daily chart, it looks like it's going to be pretty hard for you to really be able to push it down. But we'll see, right? We'll see. Here is a pretty clear inverted head and shoulder pattern with a breakout and a back test, and a back test pass, and it just went up, right? And as it go up, seeing a little bit of exhaustion over there, and looks like there initially was a little bit of a back test here of this very, very nice, kind of like a cup and handle type pattern, right? Brick above, back tested it. Looks like it was just going to keep going up from here. Nope, back tested again, broke down through the floor, trying to find support underneath lower levels over here, right? And just bounced pretty powerfully, and bam, just keep going up, right? I think a very, very similar phenomenon has been happening. So if you ignore that, because we're already done with that formation, it's already played out. So right now, if you just kind of look at what you're looking at over here, you have a bigger cup and handle type pattern right here, right? This is the big cup right here. This is the handle. And initially, it looks like it's just going to back test. Looks like it's back testing. It looks like bouncing. And now it's just kind of breaking through the floor and trying to find support over here, right? Kind of like how they kind of broke it through the floor and try to find support over here. There's some correlate in terms of what Shopify is trying to do. Every stock generally has their own personality, and that's what looks like Shopify is trying to do to me. If I just zoom back out to the monthly, and I do want to say there's still, and again, like these things they're going to play out longer term. They're not going to let you know whether or not what's going to happen with earnings every quarter. So that's not how these works, right? Because I usually look at monthly charts. I usually look at weekly charts. I rarely look at daily charts. So I just want to show you daily because there are things I want to show you. But if you look at the Blackhead Fund, you're going to look at it, you'll be all skeptical. Oh, the whales are still coming. How come you had a drop in near 20% today? The truth is, this is more of like a trend oscillator, and that tells you, the trend of whales coming in are still positive, right? Despite the fact the price is going sideways and going down, the trend is still positive. So you do have, yeah, you do have whales exiting today for sure, but overall, the trend is still positive. Is the point. So far, I'm still not really seeing whales leaving quite just yet, at least on the higher time frame. There are a lot of fears out there when it comes to this stock because it dropped 20%. All of a sudden, everybody started talking about high valuation, high rate environment, recession risk. Wall Street basically just wants to tank the stock. But as far as I'm concerned, there is really demand for the stock because there's a pretty decent wick right here. It's a pretty unique company. A lot of people try and make comparisons to Amazon. Like they're not. They're a very different thing. I don't know. I'm not going to verbalize the fundamentals very well. That's just unfortunately it's just not my forte. I do read. I do look at earnings, but that's not what you're here for, right? All I'm really trying to say is that the stock really tanked because there were reduced guidance, under what other people have originally thought. But you have to take into consideration too, it is still managing some pretty amazing growth throughout this high rate environment, throughout these consumer recession when, like you're talking about like Nike, Pfizer, you're talking about Hershey's really is just having like these stocks just dropping like crazy. And Shopify is still holding okay in terms of its growth. That's amazing. These things are cyclical, and I think it's a little bit difficult to try and value a stock when there's a lot of fear out there, when there's a lot of high rate environment fears and things like that that are still ongoing. But anyway, I'm done talking about Shopify. I want to talk about the other one that's that was of interest from yesterday, which is AFRM. And as far as AFRM is concerned, I was just really amazed. I was looking through like the more fundamental stuff. That's what took me a little bit more longer to try and come up with a video. I really think that Max Lifchin is a pretty amazing guy. I mean, hats off to him. He's basically able to turn his company around during this high rate environment where everybody was scared. And the fundamental just keeps getting better and better. I mean, granted, they're still losing money. Don't get me wrong. But the revenue growth is great. Their customer growth is great. The Affirm card is great. They're able to control the rate of delinquency, which is a great thing for somebody like Affirm, which has a lot of inherent risk, but they're able to control that. And even during these, crazy rate environments, they're able to really position themselves where they're everywhere. Like there's huge visibility when it comes to them. Granted, they're still losing money. It might take still a few quarters to turn from to profitability. And it's also part of the reason why the stock is tanked. Like maybe somebody just kind of realized, hey, this is still a company that's losing money. Why are we, shooting the stock up, right? And really, all it's doing is that it's really just kind of bring it down to where it was last month and mid-month. Like it really, the price just really hasn't changed that much at all. If anything, if there is any silver lining to this, is this, right? It's been forming all these kind of, lower high, lower low, just kind of bring it all the way down, right? And then all of a sudden you're having a little bit of an actual potential small time frame change here on the daily. And you form a high over here, that's maybe a little bit higher high there, and right now you're trying to find a higher low, right? So you're not just going to shoot up necessarily, even if the trend is changing, you're going to have, some pretty crazy volatility that could happen. But so far, the silver lining right here, even though it's down like 9 or 10% today, is that right now this could still be potentially forming a little bit of a higher low. Could it go down further? Possible. You do have a little bit of a wick here at the end. People bought it up for like 2% towards the end of the day. which generally tells me maybe there's a little bit of demand there. But that's kind of what I'm seeing, on the daily chart. Nothing crazy. If anything, it might be trying to do a little bit of a trend change here on the daily. On the weekly, this is a very, very important point that I would like to illustrate here. First of all, a lot of people, when they see that it's broken down this volume shelf over here at 35, they think automatically it's just going to go down to the 20s, right? Some things can happen where price could end up finding some other technical support and can bounce around here and end up forming a volume shelf and then actually end up forming a little bit of support or resistance over here, right? And that's what the firm looks like it's trying to do right now. Right now, it's actually been sideways over here for so long, for a couple of months. It's starting to really build a volume shelf over here to potentially serve as support. If you look over at the unbalanced volume, you can see one very important thing over here. I usually like to look for any bullish divergence or bearish divergence. On the unbalanced volume, you can see there's a bullish divergence because price just kept going down, down, down. It went the unbalanced volume actually going up. So actually, there's a lot of hidden bullish pressure that's been building up throughout the entire bull flag over here, which by definition is a bull flag, so it's supposed to be bullish, but it's just been going on for a very, very, very long time. And you're having a little bit of unbalanced volume here to kind of support that. And if you also look at the other indicator, look at the RSI, you can see something also very interesting too, right? Price went up all the way from the teens all the way up to the 30s, and the RSI has cooled down all the way from 48 all the way down to 44ish, right? So this is a pretty significant hidden bullish divergence that you're seeing here between price and RSI. There are a lot of still pretty decent bullish things that are still building up here. If you look at the monthly, which is generally what I like to look for to really look at trend, right now it just looks like a big giant bull flag. You put up volume, you can tell huge buy volume, exhausted sell volume. Even with today they're trying to sell it off. There's really nothing happened this month. Today is what, May 9th now? It was May 8th, just about 15 minutes ago before I was filming this video. It's the candle for the monthly is still green. Looks like it's got a very, very weird inverted hammer over here. Sometimes you see these kinds of things that can also potentially serve as a bottom too. But so far, price just done nothing over the last month or so. Oh, sorry, the last you're really talking about just a few trading days. Yeah, it's only been 7 trading days. It's done nothing. And if you look at the Ichimoku cloud, you can see that it's just kind of squeezing between Tenkan and the Kijun, trying to break above the Tenkan, but unable to do so far after earnings. Bears was able to kind of push it back all the way back down here. There's a lot of energy that's being exhausted by the bears too, trying to push that down. They already exhausted their energy. So this is still a bullish setup if you're looking at a longer time frame. But if you're using my information trying to long the market or short the market in these shorter time frames, you're gonna get burned, because honestly I'm holding shares. I don't really care about that 10, 15, 20% volatility. If that makes me a clown, then so be it. I'm just not that kind of trader. I'll look at longer term trend, and the longer term trend actually still looks very good. Higher high, higher low, higher high. It's just been trying to find a higher low, and right now we're finding higher low as some pretty interesting supports over here. On the monthly, you can see the Kijun has crossed the Tenkan. You have a bullish DK cross over here, and Kijun right now may be serving as a little bit as a support over here too. And if you also look at the weekly, if you just look at the weekly moving averages, is still a bull trend. 50 may be slowly kind of catching up here, trying to catch things. If you're looking for support levels, 50 is right underneath. It's going to be in the high 20s, right? But you also have these volume shells that are building up over here, around 30 or so, that can potentially end up being support over here too, right? So anyway, including the song introduction, I think this video is getting to about 20 minutes, so I'm probably going to end here. One last thing I do want to share with you is in terms of Shopify, it did drop 20% today, but I actually didn't really sustain that much loss because I really bought down here. When price was kind of going up here, I really stopped buying, so my average cost was around 30 something, 40, somewhere around there. And I really didn't buy it, and then buy. The only point where I really started to buy was right around here. I think I bought around like 68.5 or something like that. I think I bought around here. So I lost about 10% of what I bought from that day over there, which is still a big loss. You imagine, yeah, I rode the stock all the way up here to like 90. The next thing you know, the stock all the way down to 60. Thankfully, I still lost money, but I don't really care. I more just want to ride the trend. It's been falling higher, 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 low. And it's, I have a different mindset than some people. And I'm sorry if you're trying to apply my mindset to your trading, it may not work. So, anyway, thank you so much for listening. Have a good one. Bye.